Hi, my name is Lila and I'm the Mini Witch. Today we're looking at where you can find inspiration for your next miniature project. Sometimes finding inspiration is the hardest part. You're sitting at your desk, you have your miniature in hand, paintbrush in the other, and you suddenly realize you don't actually know what you're doing. So today we're going to go over several ways that I find inspiration when I'm not sure what I want to do with a miniature. One great place to find inspiration is in nature, and I look at nature specifically when I'm painting a monster. I begin by considering where this monster lives. Does it live in the desert, in which case I would be using brown colors? Does it live in the Arctic, where white would make more sense? Or does it live in the forest, where green would be more common? Next, I look at its role in the ecosystem. Is this a predator or is this prey? Would it use camouflage, or is it more like a cardinal or peacock, where the males are very vibrantly colored and the females are less so? Next, I do my best to find several reference photos. This might seem silly because surely everyone knows what a lion looks like, but there are actually a lot of subtle differences that can make your miniature look more like an individual instead of just a stock copy. For example, I am currently painting a lion for a client. So I went ahead and looked at lion images online. So before I started looking at images, there were several things I did not consider. For example, what is the age of this lion? Is it a cub that has those speckles on it to make it blend in more so it isn't as easily seen by potential predators? Or is it an older lion where the mane is sort of matted and his face is starting to turn silver? Also, it's an opportunity to look at more individual characteristics. Maybe your lion has a scar, or is missing teeth, or maybe missing an entire eye. My point is that the more detail that you put into this miniature, the more like an individual it's going to look. So take some time and look at stock images first. You also might see things that you hadn't even been aware of. For example, when I started painting this beholder, I asked myself, what kind of animal does this look like? And to me, it looked like an octopus. So I assumed that I was going to be painting it a reddish brown. But then I found out that octopuses can come in a bunch of different colors, and I found this gorgeous image of this vibrant magenta pinkish octopus. If I hadn't looked at images, I would have never known that octopi came in such color variety. So do yourself a favor and look at images first. When I get commissions for Kingdom Death, one of the first things that I do is I look up the character's lore. I would say like 75% of Kingdom Death's miniatures have lore about those individual characters, and this can be a great way to get inspiration for that miniature. Here is an excerpt from the lore on the Flower Witch. The abyssal woods exist on the precipice of obliteration. Its heavy limbs pulled inexorably towards a black hole at its center. The Flower Witch flickers through the woods, heading to inscrutable tasks that keep it from swallowing itself. Her seemingly random alterations create wonder and death for foolhardy travelers. With that lore, the two things that I immediately thought of were a dark and scary forest and outer space. When I think about outer space, I think about magenta and hot pink. I don't know if anyone else does that, but that's what I think of. And since she is a fairy, it seemed like a great place to insert that hot pink and magenta in her skin tone. For her attire, I was looking online at dark plants and I found this image. This absolutely looked like something that would be growing in a space forest. So I decided to utilize this for her attire. For the base of this diorama, I thought about how would a black hole be in a forest? And I decided that the most logical answer would be if it was in some sort of runic circle. So I decided to add those in as well. Next, when I was adding the tree, I have the tree angled towards the center of the diorama, and roots are exposed on one side because the sheer force that the black hole is putting has made the roots on one side sort of pull up as well as grow stronger. Lastly, I use rather unusual foliage to again hint at this sort of alien fantasy forest. I didn't have to put this much thought into it, but I at least like to think that since I did, it makes this piece way cooler. Next is inspiration in story. So when I was painting the Sword Hunter, which is another Kingdom Death piece, I looked at the lore and it was kind of boring. It was fine, but it didn't inspire me. So I took the name of Sword Hunter and took the miniature and decided to come up with my own story. So I designed a story of some sort of mythical woman who collects swords, whether they're ancient relics or great swords of battle or superior craftsmanship. She collects them and she doesn't care who currently has them. She's going to have them. So the edges of her clothes are dried and caked with blood. Blood is splattered across her. Her feet are sort of dark and dusty from the great distances that she's walked, and the only part of her that is pristine is the blades. And I did that specifically because the idea is that the only thing that she cares about are the swords. So I wanted to keep those in very pristine condition. Now, I like to think that that story comes across. I don't know how much of it comes across, but the fact that I came up with this story made it a lot easier for me to paint. And the same can be said for you and your miniatures. Even if no one understands the story that you've come up with in your own head, people can still look at these miniatures and recognize that there is something there. You didn't just paint this willy-nilly. You had an idea, and that will inspire an idea for them. Another place to find inspiration is just, ooh, that's really pretty. That is a way that I find a lot of my inspiration. I log on to Pinterest and just type in things. When I was painting this Archfey for my D&D campaign, all I did was type fairy into Pinterest, and I found this gorgeous image right here. Now, I didn't mimic it exactly. I only took inspiration from it. I looked at the colors, pulled from them, and decided, how did I want to incorporate this into my own miniature? I have an entire Pinterest board full of, ooh, pretty. And a lot of them are not for miniatures that I have in mind or miniatures I want to paint in the future. They're just images that caught my eye so that the next time I have a miniature that I'm not sure how I want to paint, I can log onto Pinterest and scroll through this board and maybe something will catch my eye. So if at any point you don't want to paint miniatures, but you want to work on miniatures, try making an image folder full of images that you like, that you feel inspired by, and that you one day may relate back to for a paint scheme. Another place to find inspiration is in miniatures. You spend a lot of time on Instagram, watching YouTube videos, or on Pinterest. You are bound to find miniatures that you love. I spend time looking up the exact miniature I'm painting to see what other people have done with this miniature. But the most important thing is when you're looking at miniatures themselves for inspiration is not to steal from that artist, not to exactly duplicate it, but just to take inspiration. It actually kind of stunts your own creativity by duplicate exactly what another artist has already done. There are a lot of really amazing artists out there, and it would be silly for you not to take inspiration from them. Unless you're working on a technique and that's why you're directly copying, in which case go for it. That is a great way to learn. It can also become a crutch, and I don't recommend it in the long run. Lastly is finding inspiration in what has never been done before, or at least in what you've never seen done before. Sometimes that's enough inspiration in itself. Problem solving can lead to creativity. When I began working on my flower night, I decided to do a pink to green gradation, sort of a duotone armor. And it was something I had never seen done before. Maybe other artists have done it, maybe other artists are doing it. At that time, I had never seen it. And I don't think I've seen it since. I think I'm the only one I've ever seen who did green to pink. But anyway, and you know what? There's a reason for that. It's because it's really hard. I decided to do pink to green in hopes of this duotone effect. And the fact that no one had done it before just made me want to do it even more. Sure, like I said, it was a pain in the butt, but obviously not too hard because I did the same exact thing in my archfey, so not that hard. But the point is that sometimes you can find inspiration in things that are difficult. Problem solving is a great motivation for creativity. And this motivation starts with what if? What if I painted this golden smoke night silver instead of gold? Or what if I didn't attach this miniature's arm and gave them some sort of magical prosthetic? There are so many doors that have not yet been opened because it hasn't been done yet. And it might take a little bit of research, but I guarantee that there are things that only you can do or only you will have done if you get the inspiration and the motivation to go ahead and do them. So just because something has never been done before doesn't mean it can't be done. It just means that you get to do it first. I hope that miniature painting is going well for you. Remember to thin your paints so that the paint flows off the brush easily. If you like what I do here, please like and subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and become a patron on Patreon, where you'll get access to behind the scenes content, my videos early, Discord server. You can even get feedback directly from me on your miniatures. Well, it's been 30 minutes since the last time you saw me. My camera died and there was a Zenithal cat on my lap and I did not get up. So, outro. Have a wonderful evening. Keep painting miniatures. Like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.